Good evening and welcome to our regular council meeting. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the March 23rd, 2026 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. If you could please rise while we sing our national anthem. We sing O Canada every second and fourth Monday for those who wish to attend our next practice. Approval of agenda. I believe there might be an amendment.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we did skip declarations of pecuniary interest.
Declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any? Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I'd like to declare on, if I can find it here, on 9B, as my nephew is the applicant.
Thank you, and that's enough information, I believe. Yes. Okay, approval of agenda. I believe it's as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, we do have one item that's been requested to be pulled from the consent agenda for discussion, that being item 11B, the Community Living Glengarry Proclamation request.
Okay, thank you. So then approval agenda, moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Carried. Approval of minutes. Were there any errors or omissions noted? Seeing none, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the minutes of the following meeting be adopted as circulated. Previous meeting minutes, March 9th, 2026. All those in favor? Carried. We will now get to our public meeting portion. Zoning Bylaw 04-2026, OPA 30, Arcane Defense. I believe Mrs. Haley will introduce.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council and members of the public. My name is Joanne Haley. This is a public meeting under Section 17, subsection 15, Section 22, and 34 of the Ontario Planning Act. Any person may attend the public meeting and or make written or verbal representation, either in support of or in opposition to the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. If a person or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Council of the United Counties of SDNG and the Township of South Glengarry to the Ontario Land Tribunal, also known as OLT, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Council of the United Counties of SDNG and the Township of South Glengarry before the bylaws is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at this public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of South Glengarry before the bylaws passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the OLT unless there are reasonable grounds to do so. So before we get into the presentation of the proposed official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment, I would like to introduce a few people here this evening. To my left, I have Laura Kreitz. Laura is a planner with the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry. Also in the audience, we have Peter Young, who's the Director of Planning and Economic Development Services. At the table to the left of me, we have representatives from FOTEN. They're planning consultants. We have Mr. Scott Day and Mr. Jacob Bolduc. So we will be providing a presentation, the two of us will be, and following the presentation, there'll be opportunities for members of council and members of the public to speak and ask any questions. So the United Counties and the Township received an official plan amendment application, and you're going to hear us refer to it as an OPA throughout the evening, as well as a zoning bylaw amendment application to redesignate and rezone the property that is legally described as part of Lot 8, Concession 9, in the geographic township of Lancaster, now in South Glengarry, and it's fronting on County Road 23 and Concession 10. It does not have a civic address as of yet, simply because we consider this property to be vacant land. This is a key map of where the property is located. This is Fourth Line Road that runs north and south. You can see there's this black line with no aerial photography on top, and that's because that's the township of North Glengarry. So this property rests in South Glengarry, and across the road would be the north, and it's located on the east side of Fourth Line Road or the county road, and fronts onto Concession 10. I'm now going to turn this portion of the presentation over to Laura. This is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll speak to the official plan amendment portion of this application. So the subject property is currently designated in the SDG official plan as.
Could you just move a little closer to the mic, or move the mic closer to you, just
Is that better?
Thank you.
Sorry about that. So the subject property is currently designated as both rural district and salvage yard district. You'll see salvage yard district as pink and the rural district as gray. And the effect of the proposed amendment is to redesignate the portion of salvage yard district to rural district. An amendment to the official plan is required since the list of permitted uses of the salvage yard district is very specific. So the purpose of the salvage yard district land use designation is for salvaging of materials such as vehicles, building materials, and other non-hazardous waste, and associated retail and shipping and receiving of these salvage materials. Commercial uses such as the applicant is proposing would not be permitted in the salvage yard district, whereas the rural land use district would allow recreational commercial uses. So as mentioned, the rural district land use designation allows for a wider range of land uses, including commercial uses. Specifically, the redesignation to commercial district would allow recreational and resort commercial uses serving tourism and leisure industries. The official plan does require a zoning bylaw amendment for new recreational commercial uses in the rural district. So I'll turn it back to Joe to touch on that.
So now that we've reviewed the purpose of the official plan amendment, we're going to get into the details of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. So the purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the subject property from rural to rural exception 26 to permit a recreational commercial establishment consisting of an indoor firing range and its accessory components being a retail store, training facility, and a canteen. We're also proposing to reduce the minimum number of required parking spaces from 130 to 50 spaces, and to reduce the minimum number of loading spaces from 1 to 0. And I'll just speak to the parking spaces and the loading spaces for a minute. In our zoning bylaw, we have calculations for required parking for a variety of permitted uses. We don't have a calculation for every permitted use that's in the bylaw. So oftentimes, uses that don't have a specific calculation fall under a general calculation that says all other uses above. Or sometimes the required calculation requests a much larger number than what is required. And that's the purpose of why they're requesting that reduction from 130 to 50. Also, we have a provision in our bylaw for any really non-residential development to require loading spaces. And not every development, as you can imagine, needs to have loading spaces. Buildings aren't designed that way. And that's the reason for the request from 1 to 0. All other applicable provisions of zoning bylaw 3809 as amended shall continue to apply if the zoning amendment is approved. The subject property is currently vacant, and it's approximately 11.11 hectares or 27.47 acres. A portion of the subject property was developed as a salvage yard in the past, and the property has remained vacant for approximately 20-plus years, with 2 small accessory sheds located on site. I know it kind of sounds ironic when it says vacant, but it has 2 small sheds, but we consider it vacant because there's no primary use to the subject property. This is a zoning map of where the property is located. We've already showed you the key map and explained the location, but you can see all of this area highlighted in gray, and the gray represents the rural zoning. And then with the zoning amendment application came, with the application, a variety of studies as well as plans were submitted to support the application. This is difficult for everyone to see, I'm sorry, but what's proposed here is the facility. So this is the location of the facility. Along here is the municipal drain, 30 meters to the east. You'll see the proposed parking here, and then this is just a larger image excerpt of the drawing. The applicant's representatives, FO10, will be providing more detailed information on this. We also have a variety of photos to show you of the subject property. I know this is really difficult to see, especially with snow on the ground. It's not the best time of the year for us to be doing site visits and taking photos. You can see this is the sign that was placed on the subject property. This sign is required to be placed as per the Ontario Planning Act. And then we also have a variety of photos that show the location of the property. You can see this is from the county road. And it's again, not a lot to look at this time of the year with snow, and especially when there's no structures on the property. We have circulated the subject applications to the Raisin Region Conservation Authority, as well as the United Counties of SD&G Transportation Services. The RRCA can support the proposed official plan amendment and rezoning amendment, and the United Counties Transportation Services have also provided comments in writing and indicated their support for their proposed OP and rezoning. During the 20-day notification period in advance of tonight's public meeting, we received some comments, and one of the comments we received was in regards to the municipal drain. And so we also circulated this to our township drainage superintendent. We received the comments on Friday of last week, so we incorporated them into tonight's presentation. So the drainage superintendent indicated that the proposed development will include a 30-meter setback from the municipal drain, which will remain in a vegetated state. The setback provides sufficient space for future maintenance operations. The site is subject to stormwater management being incorporated, where the post-development flows would be maintained at pre-development flow rates, and no negative impacts to the municipal drain or to upstream drainage are anticipated. As of the writing of this presentation, which was late this afternoon, we have received a total of 48 comments, of which I'm going to correct this because we have had some more changes since. We've received, as of the time of writing this report, we had received 48 written comments. We've since received an additional 7. And in total, we have 5 expressing concerns, and the remainder are expressing support of the zoning amendment. For members of council, when it comes time for us to prepare a staff report with recommendation, we'll provide much more detail and breakdown as to what was included in the public comments and really what the items were identified, whether it's in support of or against. So supportive submissions generally characterize the proposal as a unique amenity for the township, with many noting its potential to attract tourism and stimulate local economic activity. and the up to 5 comments now expressing concerns regarding the proposed rezoning. The issues raised by members of the public include potential impacts related to noise, affecting both residential uses and livestock, increased traffic, the reasonable enjoyment of nearby properties, drainage, and property values. This zoning amendment application will be subject to a decision of council, and a staff report including a recommendation will be brought to council for a decision in the near future. This will only be brought to council once the official plan amendment has been heard and decided upon at the county council level. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to FO10 Consulting. It's my understanding that Mr. Day will be presenting on behalf of the applicants. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, as well as staff for providing the presentation this evening. And I want to say good evening to everyone, as well as the public in attendance. My name is Scott Day, and I'm a planner with FO10 Planning and Design, which is a land use planning consulting firm in Kingston, Ontario. And I'm joined this evening by my colleague Jacob Balduc, who is an associate at FO10, and as well as Eric Bouffard, who is currently in the back gallery there, and he is representing the applicant, being Arcane Defense. So this evening, I will be presenting applications for an official plan and zoning bylaw amendment application for the lands described as part of Lot 8, Concession 9 in the Township of South Glengarry, again, on behalf of the applicant, Arcane Defense. The purpose of this presentation is to provide an overview of the site and surrounding context, outline the proposed development and required planning applications, as well as to gather feedback and respond to questions to help inform the development process. So I don't want to reiterate too much, but just to begin, the subject site is located within the rural area of the Township of South Glengarry, in proximity to the intersection of Fourth Line Road, also known as County Road 23, and Concession Road 10, which is a township road. The site has frontage on both Fourth Line Road and Concession 10, and has an area of approximately 11 hectares. The site is currently undeveloped, with the exception of 2 sheds located to the adjacent residential property at the intersection. And the site was formerly used as a vehicle salvage yard for the purposes of storage and recycling of scrap vehicles and materials. However, this use has ceased approximately around the year 2008. Since that time, vegetation has begun to establish across the site, and as such, tree cover is present in the central and eastern portions of the site, while vegetation in the western portion near Fourth Line Road remains more sparse. Notably, a municipal drain also traverses the eastern portion of the site, and an unevaluated wetland is located in the southwestern portion. So moving on to the surrounding area. The surrounding area is characterized by a mix of rural land uses. And again, kind of reiterating on what staff had said, Concession Road 10 forms the municipal boundary between the Township of North and South Glengarry, with the Township of North Glengarry obviously being to the north of Concession 10. Rural residential uses are present primarily along Fourth Line Road and Concession 10. And there's an adjacent a rural residential property, again located at the intersection of Fourth Line Road and Concession 10. And residential uses are also present across Concession 10 to the north, as well as to the south, which front along Fourth Line Road, and as well as to the east of the site. Looking at the surrounding area more broadly, rural and agricultural uses are present, with the nearest agricultural use being located south of the site. So moving on to the official plan designation, which applies to the site. The site is currently designated as Salvage Yard District and the Rural District in the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry official plan. The Salvage Yard District, which applies to a portion of the site, permits a limited range of uses related to the storage, recycling, and processing of materials such as vehicles. This designation was established when the site was actively used as a salvage yard, and since that use has ceased, the site retained its salvage yard district designation, which restricts the amount of permitted uses on the site. The western portion of the site, as well as the surrounding lands, are designated rural district, which is intended to accommodate a variety of uses that are appropriate for the rural area. As such, an official plan amendment is required to remove the salvage yard district designation and redesignate the entire property to the rural district in order to permit a broader range of rural uses. So moving on to the township's zoning bylaw, the site is currently designated rural under the Township of South Glengarry zoning bylaw. And again, notably, that graphic on the slide before you just illustrates two different colors. However, just to note that this reflects two different, zoning categories in two different municipalities, again, being North and South Glengarry. However, the entire site, as well as the surrounding lands, including those within the Township of North Glengarry, are all zoned rural. The rural zone, specifically in the Township of South Glengarry, permits a broad range of rural-oriented uses, including limited residential development, agricultural uses, and home businesses. A zoning bylaw amendment is required to permit a recreational commercial establishment and to establish site-specific regulations. So moving on to the proposed development. So the recreational commercial establishment, which I had previously mentioned, consists specifically of an indoor firing range with accessory components that are intended to be developed in this one-story structure consisting of three main components. So, an administrative area is highlighted in purple on the graphic before you. And this area will include a lobby, washrooms, a classroom, a self-serve canteen, and a small retail area. The facility will also include a 50-meter indoor firing range, which is highlighted in orange, or kind of red, on that graphic, as well as a 25-meter indoor range, which is highlighted more in that yellow color. Each range will contain 12 shooting lanes, for a total of 24 lanes designated for the, designed for the safe discharge of firearms. The intent of the proposed facility is to provide both structured firearms training, such as the Canadian Firearms Safety Course, as well as recreational opportunities offered to the general public. The facility will also intend to periodically accommodate local law enforcement agencies for weapons handling training, providing a facility to serve these needs across this portion of Eastern Ontario. And just noting on this graphic here, while we have the site plan up, the primary access to the site is proposed from Concession Road 10 to the north, and the parking area is proposed to contain 50 parking spaces located in front of the proposed building, again to the north. Sorry. So just giving a little bit more on the proposed development. So this slide here illustrates some renderings which were provided by the applicant, which demonstrates the anticipated scale, massing, and design of the indoor firing range just for illustrative purposes. These aren't final building designs, and this application notably will be subject to site plan control, but just to give kind of an idea. The range, notably the range components, so the 25 and 50 meter ranges, will be purpose-built structures designed specifically for indoor firearms use. They will utilize what's called a box-in-a-box design, where the primary firing range is structurally and acoustically decoupled from the outer building to maintain noise isolation. Acoustic panels within the inner structure will further reduce noise transmission. As such, the proposed design ensures that operational noise will be indistinguishable from the typical rural ambient noise. And additional land use compatibility measures have been assessed, and the proposed indoor firing range is anticipated to function as a low-impact commercial use appropriate for the rural area. So moving on to the proposed official plan amendment. The proposed official plan amendment will remove the salvage yard district designation and redesignate the entirety of the site to the rural district. This will permit a broader range of uses appropriate for the area and remove permissions associated with salvage yard uses as the site no longer is used for that purpose. Notably, the rural district designation contemplates recreational commercial uses that are appropriate for a rural setting and which are not better located in a settlement area, subject to a zoning bylaw amendment to permit that specific use. So a zoning bylaw amendment, again, is required to rezone the site from the rural zone, which currently applies, to a site-specific rural exception zone. This site-specific rural exception zone is required to permit a recreational commercial establishment specifically consisting of an indoor firing range. And in addition, the site-specific exception zone will establish a reduced parking and rate and loading requirements for those which are otherwise required under the zoning bylaw. So a number of supporting materials technical studies have been prepared in support of the applications to assess the potential impacts of the proposed development, which are listed on the slide before you. Future development, again, will be subject to site plan control, where further detailed studies may be required to assess the development, including site and building layout. So in summary, the proposed applications will facilitate the development of a recreational commercial establishment consisting of an indoor firing range, as well as its accessory components within the rural area of the Township of South Glengarry. The applications will remove current permissions for salvage yard operation, which is no longer occurring on the site, and permit a broader range of rural uses that are characteristic of the surrounding area. Notably, new recreational commercial uses are contemplated within the rural district designation, which would not be better located within a settlement area and which are in keeping with the rural character. The proposed use is appropriately located in the rural area, is compatible with surrounding uses, and has been designed to minimize off-site impacts. In addition, the proposed indoor firing range makes efficient use of an underutilized rural site, supports economic diversification in the township and broader area, and provides recreational opportunities for residents and for the traveling public. The proposal has regard for matters of provincial interest as outlined in the Planning Act, is consistent with the provincial planning statement, and conforms to the applicable policies of the United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry official plan. And as such, the proposal represents good land use planning. So thank you for your attention to my presentation, and I will take this time to introduce the applicant, being Eric Bouffard, on behalf of Arcane Defense, and he's going to just give a little bit of a description regarding the operations of Arcane Defense, and then after that, we will all be happy to take questions from council and members of the public regarding the application. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, esteemed members of the Township Council, and neighbors of South Glengarry. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Eric Bouffard. I am the founder of Arcane Defense. We are a locally owned, veteran-operated business, and I am here tonight because we believe in complete transparency and open dialogue with our neighbors. So, I know the name Arcane Defense might sound a bit mysterious, so I want it perfectly clear about who we are and what we do. We are, first and foremost, an educational, service, and consulting organization. As veterans, safety, discipline, and service are not just buzzwords for us, they are a way of life. Our core mission is to bring the same level of discipline to civilian world by promoting the safe, responsible, and legal use of firearms through professional training, expert maintenance, and industry-leading consulting. We are not just here to sell a product, we are here to build a culture of uncompromising safety, respect, and deep technical knowledge regarding firearms. Whether an individual is a local farmer, an aspiring hunter, or a law enforcement agency needing a new training facility, safety and expertise are the mandatory first steps. Our operations focus on 5 key areas. The Canadian Farm Safety Courses. We are certified instructors providing the mandatory CFSC and CRFSC, the government-mandated classroom training required to legally obtain firearms license here in Canada. Bridging the gap with live fire training. While the mandatory Canadian course is excellent for teaching the laws and mechanics, it lacks a live fire component. Too often, people get their license and are left to fire their first shot entirely on their own. We provide supervised, controlled live fire courses so individuals can experience shooting safely alongside a certified veteran instructor. Professional gunsmithing and maintenance. Safety extends to the condition of the equipment itself. We offer a full professional gunsmithing service to ensure the firearms used by local farmers, hunters, and sport shooters are kept in safe and reliable working condition. Expert consulting and range development. Our deep understanding of firearm safety, ballistics, and regulations allows us to operate as trusted industry consultants. We design and build safe, fully compliant shooting ranges for both private individuals and law enforcement agencies. Legal and expert witness services. Because of our rigorous standards and technical knowledge, our expertise is recognized by the legal system, where we frequently serve as expert witnesses by court cases involving firearms. So beyond these services, we are passionate about introducing people to the deep-rooted Canadian traditions of shooting for sustenance, safe and ethical hunting, as well as focused, rewarding world of sport shooting. Hunting, farming, and sport shooting are a vital part of the fabric of South Glengarry. Because we are locally owned and operated, we aren't just doing business here. We live here. We respect this community's values and want to provide a professional, highly credible resource for our residents. We also understand that business involving firearms brings a unique set of responsibilities. We want to assure the council that the public of the following: strict compliance. We operate strictly under the guidelines of the RCMP and the Chief Firearms Office. Because of our military background, safety protocols are our highest priority, and we routinely exceed baseline regulatory requirements. A secure and respectful facility. Our proposed facility is designed with state-of-the-art security measures. We are highly conscious of noise mitigation and environmental standards to ensure we are quiet, unobtrusive neighbors. Community resource. We want to be a resource for our local residents. We have inherited farms or those that need to be inspected or disabled, who need advice on safe storage, or who simply want to educate themselves on safety. In conclusion, at Arcane Defense, we believe that education, proper maintenance, and expert guidance are the ultimate forms of security. We are incredibly proud to bring our veteran experience and professional services to your neighbors right here in South Glengarry. Thank you for your time and your warm welcome. My door is always open to this council and to any resident, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions you may have tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Before opening it to the public, just a few things, because some people have, this might be their first meeting, would be, there will be no decision taken this evening. We are here to receive public input. I'm very glad that you stated that you'll be willing to take questions, because most of the time it's, for council to receive the, it's like if there are critics or like things that we can think about to make this decision, but if you're willing to answer the questions that people may have, that's great, because I don't necessarily think it's necessary because it's coming this way. In the event that I have to ring my gavel for decorum, I will hit it, but it's more of a procedure. I don't imagine we'll get there, but I just want everybody to know in advance that. I'll start with council members. Councillor Bougie, you have a question or comment?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Eric, for that additional information. Just a couple comments and a question. So thank you. Well, I mean, there's a lot of information here to review. I did have a couple comments about noise, but after reviewing, I guess when a firearm is fired, it's around 148 decibels, and with the mitigation measures, if you're standing outside, it's around 15, which is about, I guess, the sound of a whisper. So, I mean, that's very low. So I did have concerns about that. I was surprised that the parking spaces were so high to begin with, but I mean, I guess that's part of the process, 130 to 50. My one main question is in terms of zoning. So if we do approve the zoning for an indoor firing facility, what else would they be able to do in terms of other uses? Like, would they be able to do an outdoor firing facility, or what else could they do if we change the zoning?
Ms. Haley?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for the question, Councillor Bougee. I'll just make a comment on parking. So one of the reasons why the parking calculation seems so high is because it's based on the square footage of the facility. And when you look at the design of the facility and so much of that building being proposed for the shooting range, if I'm using the appropriate word, or if I'm not using it, I apologize, that is not being filled with people, so therefore you don't need it. So it's just, you know, those things are factored in when it comes to the gross floor area of the building and requires more. I would expect that the applicant would have a good understanding of the proposed patrons attending the site, and that the 50 spaces would accommodate the usage that would occur when they have their classrooms in operation or things like that. Perhaps they can add to my answer later on. In regards to the site-specific zoning amendment, so based on the wording, what was applied for and what was placed in the notice, this is for an indoor facility only. So they wouldn't be able to change their operations and now operate an outdoor shooting range or an outdoor facility. Let's say council approves this zoning amendment and Arcane Defense is no longer in business in 20 years from now, and our terminology is still the same in our zoning bylaw. That means then other recreational, commercial permitted uses that fall within the definition of the zoning bylaw can move into this facility. So it'll always be based on recreational, commercial uses. How any other changes to what is proposed or approved, I should say, would be subject to future zoning bylaw amendments. Thank you.
Okay, are there any questions? Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Jaworski. I'll do my best to answer this, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not a noise expert, so it's difficult for me to answer this very accurately for you. But when we're considering land use planning applications, we have to take into consideration guidelines that are provided to us from the ministry, MECP, the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks. And we look at what the guidelines are and if what's being proposed exceeds the guidelines. When we have proposals such as something like this, when I'm in meetings in advance of applications being filed, right away noise comes to it seems to be a high priority when we're discussing this, because right away you want to understand what the impacts would be to the abutting property owners. And so we requested that a noise evaluation be completed in advance of the meeting. And the reason for that is to make sure that if we're putting a recommendation before council to either approve or refuse, we have to be considering the MECP guidelines. I'm not answering your question specifically, and it's because I'm not a noise expert, so I can't tell you, exactly where we would recommend or not recommend based on decibels. But if it falls within the guidelines, then it's something that we feel comfortable with, and we'll consider that during our review.
Please proceed.
So that's a question I can answer. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, again. So if we were to receive a noise complaint, and it could be on any type of activity that's occurring, our bylaw officer would investigate the complaint. The officer may request the individual who's filing the complaint to provide evidence of the noise that could result in recordings. Our officer would also attend to the site. If we believe that the noise may be exceeding the acceptable decibel levels, we could ask for noise studies to be completed to determine if they are within or exceeding the MECP guidelines. And then if they're below, then we would inform the person complaining that it's not a concern. And if they're an above, then we would work with the individual or the business that's creating the noise and bring them in, or request them to come into compliance with the noise requirements.
Do you have any further questions, Councillor Jaworski? All right, I'll open up to the public. If you wish to speak, just press the gray button. You'll see the red light come on and introduce your name and address if you're interested.
Okay. Am I being heard? Did I do it right?
Perfectly.
It's a long time since I've done one of these. Good evening, everyone, especially council, Mr. Mayor. Pleased to meet you. My name is John Stante, and I'm a resident, obviously, on the Fourth Line Road, which was shown, and I am directly in front of what they propose to do. First of all, I have to commend the presentation made by the applicant. It's quite good. It's complete. You haven't missed anything, except for the fact that I have here a formal petition from every single owner of properties in and around the proposed site. There are people here like myself that are right in front of it. There's a gentleman, Mr. Titley. If you look at the map, you see the black. There's a little bit of green on that black. That little bit of green right against the road is Mr. Titley's house. And they've got grandchildren. So they have a concern, naturally, of safety concerns. I know that it's been addressed. However, people around in the proximity and directly affected, we do not want a firing range in our community. Whether or not it's good commercially or viable even, that's a consideration, sure. The other consideration is I moved there 47 years ago, and I didn't move there, right, to have a firing range next to me. It is indoor, I understand. However, it's still a problem. And the neighbors, the names are here, I'll submit it, they're the same point of view. Especially there are two young ladies that have just moved in across the street from there. And yeah, that's not what they were bargaining for when they bought it 3 years ago. And obviously they are against it. So there are a lot of people here, there's about 38, that have signed the petition, okay? I can read the petition to you if you would like, and why not, I guess. Pardon me. Okay, so as presented in the application, a two-step rezoning procedure is required. First, from the property's present designation as a salvage yard district to a rural district. The reason that it was a salvage yard district was that Mr. Berrio, who lived there and ran that business, was there forever. He was born there, and he had the business. In the mid-'80s, the provincial government changed the rules so as to prevent properties such as Mr. Berrio's and or mine or anyone else from having a salvage yard, okay? So they grandfathered him in, which is fine with us, you know? So we didn't want to do anything untoward for Mr. Berrio. It was quite fine the way it was. But the second step, as I mentioned, is going to be it requires an amendment to what is established, what is permitted as of now, under the bylaws, obviously. So, irrespective of any and all portrayal, the proposal, we, the undersigned, as owners of properties, be they contiguous to or in proximity of said proposal based on principle, which basically means nobody wants it there, and also on economic considerations, which I will get to, okay? So we do hereby categorically, in the absolute and in perpetuity, with all due respect, call the People's Council to dismiss said proposal in the interest of the public good, which are obviously are represented by everybody that owns property around there. Now, I really didn't think we'd have to go point by point, so I didn't prepare that kind of a presentation. Also, I received notice of said proposal on I know it was sent on March the 2nd, but I only got it Friday the 13th, as did others around. So a point by point, I'm unable to do that tonight. However, the general perspective is as follows. There are national studies from I have to take these, I can't read with them. National studies from realty companies such as RE/MAX, Royal LePage, Cadillac Fairview, Minto Group, Royal Trust Canada have shown that indoor firing range in a rural/residential area detrimentally impacts property values anywhere between 10 and 30%, depending on the proximity and buyer perception. And I'm going to quote from one of those studies. I quote, "The mere presence of a shooting range, be it indoors or outdoors, lowers property values. In addition, it also reduces the pool of interested buyers." Somebody's got a family, they're not going to really want to, move into that area. So it's also what is proposed, it's incompatible with the surrounding residential and rural uses. It'll disrupt the rural character. There are, as noted before, noise and safety concerns, which, by the way, again, I didn't have the time to put it down. However, it does say that however well the indoor firing range is built, and I have no doubt that everything will be fine on their side, there is noise leakage, period. And, we want to be able to enjoy our properties the way we have been enjoying it. Me for 47 years, some others their whole life, okay? So the property in question on the one side, it abuts Madame Vachon and grandchildren. On the other side is Mr. Titley. On the other side of that road is Sean, and then there's myself and another person whose name escapes me. So it is useless, really, I think, to prepare a rebuttal for what they propose simply because there's no doubt, I mean, the building's going to be built the way it's supposed to be built. I mean, I don't doubt that. And I don't hold any animosity or whatever for the gentleman who wants to build this. That's not the point. The point is, it doesn't fit why we were there in the first place. And it is going to be disruptive. If you don't have the noise from the guns, fair enough, but you got traffic. 50 parking spaces. Coming in, coming out, whatever the hours of operation are, that's additional. It does not impede traffic. I think it's in the report. It doesn't impede traffic, but what it will do is increase traffic. So we don't want that. I don't want to see a parking lot in front of my home for 47 years, and I think that we really are old, not really old, but, you know, we should be given consideration as to what we would like as well. I mean, that actually is basically it, because what they prepared is fine. I can't question the building or how they're going to build it. They're pros, that's fine. The question that is on my mind and my neighbor's mind is, we just don't want it, in principle. But then there's also the evaluation of the houses that drop 10 to 30%, depending on proximity. And then the problem is compounded by the fact that if I want to sell the property, then you have a limited, it affects it. It reduces the pool of interested buyers. And if it does that, which they say it does, then the evaluation is no longer down by 10 or 30% if I really want to get out of there, right? It'll be more. To what end? I don't know. I don't want to know. So basically, that's all I have to say at the moment. There's no use to prolong this.
Thank you very much for that. I didn't capture your civic address. I got Fourth Line Road.
Mine?
Mr. Standing?
3680 Fourth Line Road.
Okay. And in addition, if you, as you said, you didn't feel enough time to prepare something, you can prepare that and send it to Mrs. Haley written afterwards. There
I
is
can
time
do
for
that?
There's time for that still, yes.
Can I ask how much time?
Oh, certainly. Mrs. Haley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We anticipate preparing a staff report to council with a recommendation regarding the official plan amendment only for our April 13th meeting. And so I would need your comments ideally by April 1st, April
Okay.
2nd, if you
In
can.
and
So
around
it should
that.
give you some more time
Okay.
to prepare what you need. I know you and I have spoke often,
Yes.
but
I'm
anything
glad
else?
to meet you, by the way.
Yes, you too. You're welcome to call me anytime at the office, and
Fair
you'll have
enough.
more time. Thank you.
Fair enough. Thank you very much. That's all, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, there's not much more to say. We don't want it. I mean, you know, sounds stupid, but that's it.
No, it's fair.
Okay.
You presented your points well, and I'll open it up.
That's it.
to-
I'll give this to Joanne after.
That'd be perfect.
The petition.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Good.
All right, well, then I'll ask, are there any other
I
members?
thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Glad to receive it. Yes, yeah, please proceed. So the mic's already on, just name and address.
Yes, good evening. It's Chris Ferguson from 3819 Fourth Line Road. Would be the subject property right to the south, not the wooded area, but the farmland to the south of the proposed area. Actually, we do have a registered easement that borders the very east of that subject property. You can actually see it there. It goes all the way to the 10th concession. I was one of the applicants who expressed some concerns, mainly more or less on the farming side or the ag use, given, you know, our property, that's our main business. And I do believe in the report, and I did highlight that, and I thank staff for preparing that report or that rebuttal. And I do believe maybe it was just a misunderstanding, but in the staff, or in the report, it was said that the municipal drain flows north or south and west, which actually staff and drainage and superintendent did change, said it actually flows east and north, meaning our 77 acres or 153 acres in total that is workable would be at the top end of the drain. So that was a concern for me. Also the livestock use, which would then become to an issue of an outdoor firing range, which I believe Councillor Bougie did kind of address in setting a precedent if we did make an amendment change, what activities are, you know, permitted after said bylaw. Be quite fairly honest, I'm very pro-rural development. I've got projects of my own. I think it's great to have rural development. However, I do think that there has to be some concerns at least brought forward here to council tonight. And have a chance to speak and, represent the neighbors. For myself, I'll speak, I don't want to speak for all our neighbors, but that was one big concern for me as an owner, and some council members or some staff addressed that. What prevents, or is there a precedent set here that if we do an indoor shooting range, once it's passed, what prevents the neighbors, or, the owners to then go out and do an outdoor shooting range, which then is the noise and so on and so forth. For myself and my family, I do believe that is our main concern. And, willing to, doors always open. I can always, you guys are more than welcome to come in and talk. We can always have a great discussion. However, that was my big concern, is enjoyment of property and or livestock use for our farming property, which is directly south of that said proposed amendment. So those were the issues I wanted to highlight, made aware to council. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor and council and staff. Thank you very much for listening to this. But these were two issues, and I do believe, I can't speak for all our neighbors, but for myself and my farming business, that those were two areas of concerns that I wanted to highlight anyway. So thank you very much. So.
Thank you very much. Just to go to Councillor Bougie's question, if I may, and then I think I'll direct it to Mrs. Haley. This is to approve just the indoor range. If there was an outdoor range, that'd be like it would be a subsequent decision of a subsequent council, right? Like it would be a whole new process. I'm correct in my understanding of that? Okay, perfect. Okay, are there any other members of public that wish to speak? All right, I don't think we have to ask you. I don't think you have to introduce yourself again. We have that information, but please proceed and
There
the
you
button,
go.
yeah.
Thank you. As the gentleman was mentioning, obviously, if we're going to open this up, it's going to set a precedent. And once a precedent is set, now you may have other problems and other legal problems as well, which is, quite serious. We didn't come here to be in a commercial area. That can be in Glen Robertson, the town itself. Now, the other thing I have to add is that drainage that is going east, it's a heck of a story, actually. It's going east to west, and on our side, it's right on the property. My other lot is right there. So I don't think it affects the drainage as it is now. However, there was a council meeting in the mid-'80s, and I'm serious, that it was found out and admitted to by the construction company who carried out that particular drain. It was admitted, I'm sure you can find it somewhere in the library of SDG, it was admitted that the water was flowing the wrong way. Why? Because they did not anticipate a huge stone, okay? So we had a meeting, whatever, we went to that was an arbiter actually, that convened it, and the company, as I say, they admitted it. So what should have been done by council at that time was to have them fix the problem, right? I mean, logical. They had guarantee to the city, at that time was just Glengarry. And what happened was they let it go through, they left it alone as is. But that's a problem that goes back 40 years, okay? At the time, that particular lot did not belong to me. However, the legal advice that I got was simply not worth the trouble, okay? At the time. That, it says that a lawyer is not a good lawyer if he progresses with his own personal case. So I had my friends tell me, and they said, so we let it go. Because it was also, at that time, part of Mr. Barrio's property, which is what they want to build on. So that issue is relevant for another time. But that should be addressed because it does flood my property. It's not flowing the right way. So I just wanted to add that. I don't know if it helps or not, but there it is. Thank you, one and all. Thank you.
Thank you. If I could sum up the three big complaints of South Glengarry, it's garbage, gravel, and wayward water. So this would be wayward water, and we don't want it going the wrong way, and we will, obviously, Gary McDonald's our drain superintendent, so if you have any questions, we're glad to, you can reach out to him. Like, we'll make him available to confirm that. Are there any other questions or comments of the public at this point in time? Yes, please proceed. Microphone's already on. Again, your name and address.
My name is Leo Sege from 3915. It's close to my phone number, so sometimes I get the two mixed up. I have a couple of questions for Eric, if I could. You had mentioned that the lot had approximately 27 acres. I would presume that there is room for an outdoor range on that property? You're not exploring that at the moment, but if you did, you would have room. Okay.
So there was just just to keep comments public record, I'll just say that it was stated, if you wish to, on the two, like the room for, if you wish to answer that, if you have an answer.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, we do have members of the Arcane team behind me. I'm not sure if we want to get through all of the comments prior to responding, or if we want to go one by one.
I think that's prudent, because typically, as I said, it is a public to council, so.
Agreed.
I mean, those, like, if you feel you wish to answer those questions when they come up, but if you list your questions.
If I can ask one more, and then he can have the mic, and
Certainly,
I'll
yeah.
sit down. My next question is, you talked a little bit about the decibel level of the indoor range. Now, what are you basing that on? What caliber? Pistols, rifles? What are you going to accommodate in this range? 306s or 22s? Pistols, rifles? And when you base the decibel level that you talked about, what are you basing that on? Which caliber? Okay?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, and thank you again for receiving the comments, because as I said, sometimes, like, it's supposed to be to council, so this is I guess, bonus feature. So if you feel comfortable answering those questions, please do.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And my name again, Eric Bouffard. Just for the record, I am actually a resident adjacent to this property. I'll address the first question about the outdoor range. I myself am very familiar with outdoor range. We've constructed them as consultants as a company. We've constructed indoor ranges as well for law enforcement, so we're very familiar with the process with regards to the noise levels. To the first, with the outdoor range, I live within 2 doors down from where this property is, and I myself do not want an outdoor range for the same reasons that the current residents are stating for the noise level. And so that is not even into consideration for our project. As long as I'm part of this project, this will never happen. Nor is it ever going to be an amendment on this lot as far as I'm going to be involved with it. To the second, the noise levels as far as calibers go. So the construction on these types of indoor ranges with the noise mitigation, or the mention of a box inside of a box, explores the full range of different calibers. It's not specific to 22s. They look at the decibel levels, and that's the noise produced. They mitigate the noise up to basically all the calibers that we plan on use, anything from a 22 all the way to a 50 caliber BMG, which is essentially one of the largest rounds out there that you can fire. Some police agencies use them. Currently, they are prohibited for public use. So as far as the mitigation of the noise with the box within the box, it would be the same. There would be no noise production outside of the range based on the new technologies that we're going to be implementing with the ventilation system and the mitigations and the baffles that are involved, as well as the soundproofing that's done within that box inside the other structure with the soundproofing on the outside. So it's a little bit of a moot point on the point that the noise that's produced outside of the range will be almost nil, regardless of the caliber. The noise on the inside of the range will be very loud, and that's why our protocols with using ranges is to wear inner and outer ear protection for the protection of the individual shooting, of course, right? And so the noise produced on the outside of the building, I'm very conscious of because I'm one of the local residents here, and as are my neighbors, those that may or may not be in support of the project. So I hope that answers the question.
I suppose it answers the question to the, like, the question was asked, me as a member of council or as mayor, I'm satisfied with your answer, because we don't, like, it isn't a litigation back and forth, and I don't want to go into that. So the question was asked and answered, we're satisfied, so.
I'll close my answer by saying, should anyone have any questions about those kinds of things, I am open to those questions as a company. Please get in touch with us. We probably have all the answers to what you're looking for. Whether you support or not, that is entirely up to you, but if you want those answers, I'm comfortable with giving you those answers, even outside of this forum. Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question. You mentioned calibers as big as 50 caliber. How long is your range again? You said 50 yards or 75 yards? 50 yards. Okay. Okay.
Thank you. I do see there might be one or two more members of the public interested in speaking. Again, name and address.
It's Tina Stante, and I live at 3680 Part 1 and Part 2 on Fourth Line Road.
Do you mind just saying your name one more time? I couldn't pick it up. That was wrong.
Sorry, my name is Pina Stante, and I live at 3680, and I own the property of Part 1 and Part 2. It's okay. My question to you, sir, is you also have in your presentation supplies. Does that mean a supply where you would be selling? What would you be selling? And I'm not talking about the canteen. I'm talking about, are you selling the pistols? Are you selling, people can buy guns?
So if I may, just to try and get us back on a little bit topic, I'm not trying to be rude. It is, not many people have the experience going through public meetings. Those are fair questions to ask. I think he's glad to answer after the fact. It doesn't have to do with the specific zoning, I don't think, in that portion, if I'm proper. But I do see one of the consultants that might have an answer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For the second part of my answer, I will have to turn it over to Eric for the additional detail. But I would just note that if we go back to the site plan, if possible, I know I have a mouse, but I'm not driving tonight. It's one of the things that we specifically color-coded. That'll do, right there. So the 50-meter range, as noted, is in orange, and the 25-meter range is in yellow. As we noted, those are unoccupied spaces. The bulk of the facility is that 975 square meters that's in purple. And the purple includes what we've labeled as administrative area. That's the reception, that's the classroom, that's the canteen, and that's the retail component. The idea of the retail component, as far as I understand, and Eric, please, if you want to jump in afterwards, is for the selling of materials that are incidental to the use of the firing range. So if you needed ammunition while you're there, I'm assuming you could buy ammunition. The sale of firearms, that's not my understanding, but again, I would invite Eric up here to provide a detailed response to that respect. So it's sort of the everything else in the retail. We did actually get a comment earlier, I hate to go off script, I apologize, thank you for your question, about if the retail store could be expanded to potentially accommodate local products, right? There was an interest, for example, if there's an apiary down the road and they wanted to have their honey on display. That wasn't the intent when we wrote the report in favor of this. I don't necessarily see an issue with it, but again, that would be something we'd have to discuss with staff moving forward. But that's my understanding of the retail space at this time. If I could invite Eric to come up and answer maybe the more detailed questions about the retail component, if it includes firearms.
Okay. I suppose if you, a yes or no answer, or we don't have to get too heavily into it. I think the question or concern is there.
So I'll just answer quickly. The current licensing we have for retail right now, it remains on ammunition and the possession of firearms for the purpose of rentals for the use of the range. We don't have a current licensing for the retail of firearms. That being said, we are there to serve the community. So if we see that there's a need for it or there's a demand for it, we may explore that option, but at this time we don't have that licensing. So it's not one of our current activities, and I can't really speak to that until we make a decision, because I'm not the only one making decisions to that aspect of the business at this time.
Well, that's fair. Not your intention at present, but market may influence that. Is there a subsequent question? And please proceed. And you've already spoken, Mr. Ferguson, so no need to reintroduce yourself.
My question maybe is more for staff or council. Business transact over time, 10, 15 years, who's to say that this business still owns this property? So my question, I guess, would be, if we do go ahead, or if they do go ahead and approve the bylaw specific to an indoor shooting range, and then there's a subsequent amendment brought up, councils change, or different people are sitting around the table here, how would local residents, if you had concerns, what would be the steps going forward to either, speak for or against? Would it be the same kind of precedent setting, or is there a risk that since this was passed, or may pass or not pass, is there a precedent that's set, or how do we go about to voice opposition or in support of going to an outdoor firing range? So thank you very much.
I'll put it to Mrs. Haley. From the council standpoint, I can't speak for a future council or other members of council. In our considerations would be, there is, as everyone knows, a difference between an indoor facility and outdoor facility, and weighing that balance with community interest or lack thereof would probably weigh on them, but I can't speak for them. But Mrs. Haley, in terms of future process, would it be very similar to what we're doing today?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the question, Mr. Ferguson. I think what I'd like to do is read to the members of the public the current definition of a recreational commercial establishment, which might help you understand if the amendment was approved and if, let's say, this business is no longer in business, what could continue to apply to the property. So the definition reads as follows, means an establishment, premises, or building where any recreational, social, or cultural uses are operated commercially for profit on lands in private ownership, such as health clubs, athletic clubs, open or enclosed skating or curling rinks, open or enclosed pools, open or enclosed badminton or tennis courts, squash courts, bowling alleys, gymnasiums, other similar uses, but does not include a casino or a bingo hall. Items such as go-kart, motorcycle, all-terrain vehicles, riding facilities, or similar uses are subject to approval of a noise study or any other study deemed appropriate by the township. So, to get a little bit more specific, Mr. Ferguson, let's say then someone else comes forward and wants to introduce a use that's not included either in the definition or in any other permitted uses listed in that rural zone, then it would be subject to a zoning amendment. And assuming the Planning Act will always allow for public consultation in the future, then it would be similar to a meeting like this evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Answered my question. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe I see somebody else coming to speak. Yeah. Name and address again, please.
So it's Lee Barre, and it is 1323 Notre Dame in Cornwall, Ontario. Thank you to Council, Honorable Mayor, everyone who came out tonight, and for Arcane Defense for putting this presentation together. Got here a little late, the roads were a little long. I just wanted to speak in my support of this proposition and to the great concept that this idea is. Not someone who's a homeowner in this economy, it's a little challenging, but I see this as a great chance for me to get out into the SDNG townships and see more of your wonderful community. Right now, it gets very cold during the majority of the season, and the only ranges within even a 3-hour distance of Cornwall are all outdoor ranges, which means we have to bundle up. It gets a little hardy, but we're Canadians. We don't mind it so much. But if we had an opportunity for an indoor range, we have a chance to be around other people, get some coffee, and then we can patron the wonderful businesses you have here in the SDNG counties, versus us having to drive hours and hours away. And I'm just speaking as a resident of Cornwall. I know when I went for my firearms safety course and subsequent courses at the other ranges I'm a member at, I met people who were coming from Ottawa and Brockville and even across from the west side of Quebec to find a range because we're all stocked up with members. We aren't getting enough new slots for people to actually go out and practice their hobby or to get their rifles zoned in or zeroed in, correction, so that they can sustenance hunt for themselves. And we want to make sure our hunters can make those ethical kills so they can put that food on the table if they want to go hunting for that. We want to make sure that when people are going to the range, they're having fun within the community, they're doing it safe and responsibly, and then they can take their time when they're in those communities to support local, rather than driving hours and hours away and putting that money into other communities rather than your own. I think this is a great idea, and I would love to see it go forward, and it would have my full support going for that. And I encourage any of the council or community that have any questions about firearms. Those of us that own firearms in Canada are the most vetted Canadians. We get RCMP background checks every day. We are friendly, we are kind. Ask us anything, we'll be more than happy to answer your questions. And hopefully we can all go and get a coffee and get, break bread over all of this rather than any division. But that's just my 2 cents on it. And I want to thank everyone again for their time tonight.
Thank you. Yep. So name and address, or?
Good evening, Carrie Lee Henderson. My address is currently not in the area, but I'm a prospective purchaser of 21950 Concession 10, which is the neighboring property. So I actually have put an offer in this property, and then we found out about this. I just wanted to kind of voice so yeah, it butts on the side. I'm a farm girl. I appreciate, like all of you guys. I wanted a nice property to bring my mare home. She's pregnant. She's going to have a baby. I want to raise my animals. I want peace and quiet. I love the Concession 10. My in-laws were from the 7th. I like this quiet setback. I wanted to ride my horse around my property, ride it down Concession 10. There's some crown land down there. I mean, I'm concerned now. I might back out. And the property owner doesn't understand about the devaluation of it. He wants big dollars. And I'm like, I'm going to be a single girl with a horse, sitting, living beside a property full of strange men with guns. Sorry, but it's true from a woman's perspective. So I just want to, I want to just come out and say that this is concerning for me. And for the property owner, he doesn't understand because he lives out of country. But this is going to be a serious issue for him trying to sell it to anybody who's willing. And I'm alone. I don't have small children. But it's still a concern for me. One thing that you guys aren't mentioning is environmental. And I don't know anything about it, but what about this ventilation? What does it impact all these neighbors? This is going to go out in the air. Is there not lead? Is there not anything? I don't know anything about guns, but is there something? I mean, we like the quiet life. Concession 10, if anybody's been down there, it's bumpy, it's muddy, it's full of ruts, and people like it that way because there's no traffic. I mean, imagine you guys are going to have a lot of city complaints about the roads now, because I know they do now. So I just wanted to mention about myself, who wants to be a potential resident for South Glengarry. But this is honestly, I've hesitated. I've actually let my offer withdraw because of this. And I think the owner needs to know this as well. So I thank you.
Thank you very much. See another member of the public, again, name and address.
Médéric Vachon, 3729 Fourth Line Road. I recently bought the property just south of the zone to be amended. So I just put all my life savings into this home, not knowing that this gun range would be going up. So like I'm at my wit's end already, having a hard time making bills and paying everything. And now there's going to be an increase in insurance because of the risk. I've already talked to my insurance brokers and they said that the insurance would increase. Also the property value, so what I actually paid for the property, the valuation will be lower than what I actually paid for the property. So that is my main concern, not knowing that that was going to happen. So I wouldn't have bought the property if I would have known there would have been a gun range coming in or it'd be amended to be a gun range.
Okay, thank you very much for your concerns. Are there any other public, members of the public who wish to speak? Please do, name and address again.
Yes, hi, Sebastian Chabot, 3748 Fourth Line Road. So thank you for having this hearing tonight. We moved there to this place in June from Montreal because we wanted the peace and quiet. And same with the lady, if we'd known that was coming, we wouldn't have bought. And if it's really coming, we're probably going to move away. My question is, who is going to compensate us for the loss of the value for all those properties?
Yeah, I don't, in all earnest, like property value decisions like that, I don't think we've ever as a township historically done that, so I would say not us, but if I'm wrong there, I'm not trying to be cheeky, I'm just trying to be as honest. Sorry, there's yelling in the background and I'm very distracted by it. I suppose the answer is potentially no one. I'm just want to be earnest, not to be rude, just that would be borne by the property owner.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or further comments from members of the public? Yep. So name and address again, please.
My name is Jonathan Sumi. I'm at 22030 Concession 10. It's the top right corner. I've got 107 acres there. I inherited that from my dad who passed away 2 years ago. I guess you must know him, JP. Anyways, so yeah, it's a concern for the value of the property. If I'm living with my mom now, she's old, and if she passes, if I want to sell, it might be a concern. So that's it. And my girlfriend wants to buy the property right next to it, and for her horse, as she said there, might be a concern for that too. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your concerns. I do see another speaker. Are we? Okay, please proceed, and I think you've introduced yourself.
Yes,
so-
thank you. Just wanted to comment on the noise. I have family out in Nova Scotia, and they have an indoor range right in Halifax. You hear more noise from people outside going to the pizza next door. The noise you're currently hearing from the rowdy sports enjoyers within the building right now is louder than what you'll hear on the first side of the observing wall, much less what you hear outside. It's going to be as quiet as a library, if not quieter from the outside. As for filters, I didn't get to see the proposal for how the filters inside the building are going to go, but it's not hard to have filters for your air system to make sure that it's nice and clean air going outside. It's going to be safe for us to breathe inside. It's going to be safe for the environment on the outside. Now, I can't attest to that 100% because I'm not with the Arcane team. I got here a little late. Sorry about that. But as far as I'm aware about indoor ranges and their policies, it's going to be quiet as a graveyard, pardon the imagery, and it's going to be clean for the community. Now, I can't attest to the property values. I didn't do any research on that before coming, so I can't speak to that point for tonight, but I wanted to just thank everyone again for their time.
Thank you. I'm just, we'll go to the consultant, then we'll jump to you for a moment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I was just to clarify, he's with the Arcane team, and he's here to answer the question. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Jeremiah Point. I don't live in a township. I live in Akwesasne, just 30 minutes south of here. I'm the mechanical engineer for the project. I'm also an invested interest in the project as well. As far as the environmental aspect for filtration, it is a requirement that we HEPA filter everything for the occupants within the range, as well as what we expel to the surrounding environment. We can actually expel lead contamination to the surrounding environment externally. As far as the sound, as you heard, it's quite reduced. One aspect is for the occupants within the shooting range themselves who are actively shooting. If we don't have the sound deadening materials within the range itself, the hearing protection wouldn't be adequate. So we have to reduce the sound internally first to protect the occupants. We have to reduce the sound exterior of the active shooting area, so the retail space adjacent to that within the building, so that the people outside don't have to wear hearing protection and carry on conversations, conduct retail activities and whatnot. If anybody's visited an indoor range, sometimes they put glass between where the shooting is happening and where the retail space is, so you can see who's inside the range shooting. It's expensive to do that. It's one of our wish list things to have glass separating it so that you can see who's inside the range. It's ballistic glass, it's sound deadening, it has all the same characteristics, which is why it would be quite expensive, and hopefully we can fit that in the project if it's approved to move forward. But you can have a normal conversation. You don't actually hear the shooting because there's double barriers with doors and a kind of like an airlock where you have to close one door before you can open the other door and enter the range area. The RA Center in Ottawa is the only indoor range in Eastern Ontario. The next closest is Toronto. So the RA Center in Ottawa is quite busy. It's in high demand because of all the shooters in the area go there in the wintertime, myself included. The lead control in that space is older technology. We're hoping to have a modern facility with modern control to reduce any contamination within the space itself, and we have technologies for that. We're working with several manufacturers to decipher which ones that we should utilize for this facility, as well as the HEPA filtration, like I mentioned, to protect the exterior environment. Thank you.
Thank you for those clarifications and information. Any further questions? So then with that, we will, as I said, no decision will be taken, but we've heard it will be compiled by Mrs. Haley, and a report will subsequently come to council for decision. I believe you said the first meeting in April, which is the second Monday of the month. So that will be when that will come back. This will come back to council. We do have a second public meeting. You're welcome to stay if you wish, but if not, feel free to exit right now. We do thank everybody for showing up for this one. I might ask my council who's sitting here, can we take a 5-minute break while we let people leave? Okay, so then can I get it? Do I need to move her in a second? Okay, so we'll take a break. We'll go on. So we're moving on to public meeting 6B, zoning bylaw 05-2026, 7302568 Canada Incorporated. Start with Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is our second zoning amendment application for this evening. So this property is located at part of lots, part one of part of lots 32, 33, and 34, concession 1, in the geographic township of Lancaster, now in South Glengarry, and is located at 20650 South Service Road. It's quite a large property located just east of the settlement boundary of the village of Lancaster. And for those of you who are local, just to the east of the subject property is Lancaster Park. So the purpose of this amendment is to rezone the subject property from rural to rural exception 27 to permit a residential garage to be used for storage purposes to be the main permitted use on the subject property. And you can see that the proposed garage is 120 feet by 30 feet. All other applicable provisions of zoning bylaw 3809 as amended shall continue to apply. The applicant submitted a building permit for the garage on a lot, and this lot currently does not contain a residence, which is why it doesn't have a primary use to support this accessory garage. The proposed bylaw amendment will designate the proposed building as the primary use. There is an existing structure on the subject property that received a building permit in 2020. The building permit application indicated that it was for the purposes of sawmill and forestry use. And so that was permitted. It's a permitted use in the zoning bylaw. But when a garage is proposed such as this, that's proposed that's not associated with a residential dwelling, we do require a site-specific zoning amendment. We have a couple images of what the garage is proposed to look like. You can see the front facade. This is the proposed layout, and there's two components to it, divided with a wall, and there's some hand washing sinks in this location. As you notice that the parcel of property is quite large, and it's framed by First Line Road on the east. The proposed structure is to be located along First Line Road, even though the address is off of South Service Road, and it would abut a property to the south that is also owned by the same property owner, and this property contains the residential dwelling and other accessory structures. So this is another image of where the proposed garage will be, and then you can see that there's other activity that's occurring on the site. And just on this side would be the subject property to the south. Many of you may be familiar with these gates on along South Service Road. They're nice stone gates. This is the entry to the property, and as you can see, the sign was posted in this location. It's tough to find good spots for signs in the middle of the winter, and I think some staff can attest to it's difficult to erect them as well in the winter months. We have some other photos of the property as well. You can see this is the original building that was built with the permit in 2020. And there's some outsourced storage on here. And now the proposed garage would be associated right near this building. This is a map that indicates both the zoning and the official plan. So the zoning on the left, or my left, is rural in this area because this property fronts onto South Service Road and First Line Road. And to the right, you'll see that it is a designated rural district in the county official plan. The application was circulated to the following agencies, being the RCA and the Ministry of Transportation. Some of you may wonder why we have to circulate MTO, but we have to circulate them anytime we fall within 395 meters of their right-of-way, so it's quite close to the 401. We've received comments from the RCA, and they can support the proposed rezoning, and we've also received comments from the MTO indicating that they can support the rezoning, and if the zoning amendment is approved, they will be required to have a permit from MTO prior to construction. Staff have not received any written comments to date regarding the proposed amendment. I did receive 2 phone calls from adjacent property owners, and they were really just seeking additional information about the proposed zoning amendment. So once I was able to explain to them what they were actually applying for and provide them with the site plan, they did not follow up with any other questions or any written comments. This application will be subject to a decision of council, and it is staff's intention to bring a report to our next council meeting, which is April 13th, for a decision, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
First, I must say my apologies. I should have maybe scheduled this one before. Whenever I reviewed the agenda on last Wednesday, and I didn't think about that, so thank you for your patience. Is there anything you'd like to add to what was already mentioned? Any members of council have any questions? No? Members of the audience? No? Okay. Well, we've received all the public comments, and this will probably come back at an upcoming staff report. It's the first meeting we have is the second Monday of April, and we'll come for a decision at that point. But there's no public input at this meeting, so you're free to go. Right. Thank you for your time and patience. Okay, we will move then to action request 8A, and this is the 2025 Council Remuneration and Expenses Report. It is moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie, that it is be it resolved that Staff Report 2026-36 be received, and that the presentation of the 2025 Statement of Remuneration and Expenses of Members of Council be received and acknowledged. Are there any questions on this particularly, on this topic from members of council? Okay. Well then, all those in favor of the motion as read? Carried. Yeah, feel free to leave. You don't have to stick around. Everybody leaves after. And you can stay, yeah. So we're going to 8B, Glengarry Mental Health Initiative Fee Waiver Request. This one by Ms. Dixon. Moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2026-37 be received, and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approves the request from the Glengarry Mental Health Initiative to waive fees in the amount of $525.04 for the cost of soccer field and building rentals for the organization's annual tournament fundraiser. Ms. Dixon.
Good evening, Council, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Fairly straightforward. The Glengarry Mental Health Institute runs an annual soccer tournament. Last year, it was held outside of South Glengarry, so this year it'll be coming back within our borders, and they are hoping to have the fees for the soccer fields and the Paul Rosone building waived for their event.
Thank you. Are there any questions and comments of council? Deputy Mayor Lang.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Yeah, I just speak in favor of it. I think it's a great cause, and they've really worked hard to be active in the community, so I'd like to support them.
All right. All those in favor of the motion is read. Carried. Moving to awarding Joint Tender 01-2026 Liquid Dust Suppressant. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2026-38 be received, and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry award its portion of Joint Tender RFJT 01-2026 to Dali Services for the supply and application of liquid dust suppressant at a unit price of $731.14 per metric ton. Mr. Kuhn.
Thank you, Mayor McDonald, and through you. So this is a joint tender that we did with the rest of the lower tiers in SD and G. Unfortunately, there was only one bid that we received. One vendor did submit a no bid to express interest in future tenders, and the vendor that did submit the no bid has historically been our supplier. However, they no longer have their local storage facility, so while they work through that issue, they just wanted to express their interest for next year. However, that resulted in about a 22% increase for the cost per ton. So based off of the 350 tons that we had put on the tender, it puts us a little bit over budget by about $45,000 from what we have budgeted. However, going through the numbers that finance had provided me, it seems that the last couple of years we've used quite a bit less dust suppressant than in years prior, and I think it's due to our road supervisor really monitoring where we put it down and when we put it down, so we're not applying it during precipitation events, and maybe there's a small dead-end road that doesn't necessarily need it, so he's really monitored that. So the last 2 years, we've averaged 275 tons, which actually puts us a little bit below budget. So I expect our bottom line will probably be around what we have budgeted for 2026.
Okay, thank you for that that context. That's helpful. Are there any questions from council? Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, can't miss an opportunity to promote paved roads. Wouldn't have to put any dust suppressant on. But I'm glad that and maybe that's part of the reason, we have been slowly getting some of our roads hard surface, so it does help with the amount of roads we have to do. So, but I appreciate staff doing the extra homework and making sure that we keep it to within the budget.
That is a fair point, and hopefully we'll continue that tradition of adding hard top and particularly pavement where possible. All those in favor of the motion is read. Carried. Moving into bylaws. Delegation of authority, bylaw restricted acts. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that Staff Report 2026-39 be received and that Bylaw 2026-19, being a bylaw to delegate authority for restricted acts after nomination day to the Chief Administrative Officer, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 23rd day of March 2026. Mrs. Campo.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. The bylaw that's before the council this evening is a standard bylaw that we bring forward in an election year, and its purpose is to delegate authority to the CAO for certain acts should council be deemed to be in a lame duck position throughout the election period. And for the benefit of anyone watching, as council, you're likely familiar with this, a lame duck period can occur in two different periods, one being from nomination day, which is the last day someone can put their name in to be a candidate, until election day, and then again from election day to the inauguration of the new council. And that will occur if, in the first period, if there's a possibility of less than 4 members of council being reelected, and then in the second phase, you would be deemed lame duck if less than 4 current members are reelected. So in the event that council is found to be in a lame duck position, there are certain acts that council cannot carry out during those periods. Those acts are listed within the staff report, but namely relate to the hiring and firing of employees, as well as certain expenditures that are not presently budgeted for in the 2026 budget. So typically we will bring a delegation of authority bylaw early on in the year, so that if we do find ourselves in a lame duck position, that the CAO will have delegated authority to carry out those actions if they are required. And that delegation will expire upon the inauguration of the new council. So subject to any questions, that is the bylaw that is before you this evening.
Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Jaworski?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. Just wanted a clarification in terms of how it works with respect to perhaps having an interim CAO or having a different CAO. Is it by position or how would it work in that case?
Thank you, Councillor Jaworski, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So the bylaw does appoint by position and not name. So it would, the delegated authority would apply to whoever is appointed to that position. And I'm just double checking the draft here. Yeah, so it is by position, and that would apply to an interim CAO as well, because you would appoint that position. So fingers crossed, by August 21st, we will have a CAO in place. But if not, if someone is appointed in that position temporarily, the delegated authority would apply to them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's a fair comment, because negotiations can go anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 days. Good to know. For those in the public watching, I believe April 6th is whenever our opening closes. So if you're interested, please apply. All those in favor of the motion is read. Carried. So zoning bylaw amendment, zoning bylaw 01/2026. This one, Deputy Mayor Lang has declared as a conflict of interest. This is Mrs. Haley will be presenting, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that staff report 2026-40 be received and that bylaw 2026-20, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3809 to rezone a portion of the property legally described as part of Lot 25, Concession 1, Indian Lands, being Part 3 on Plan 101 of the Geographic Township of Charlottenburg, now in the Township of South Glengarry, County of Glengarry, from natural hazard HZ to rural RU, be read a first, second, and third time passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 23rd day of March 2026. Mrs. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you mentioned, this property is located part of Lot 25, Concession 1, Indian Lands, and it's specifically on the west side of Ray Road, just south of the corner of Tyatown and Ray. The purpose of this zoning amendment application was to rezone a portion of the subject property from natural hazard to rural. Not all of the property was located in the flood zone, so it's only the center portion, as you can see, that's identified on the screen. And if the zoning amendment is approved tonight, then a majority of the parcel of property would be located outside of the floodplain and zoned rural, and all other components of the zoning bylaw would continue to apply. In the staff report, there's detailed information provided on how this proposed zoning bylaw amendment conforms to the provincial planning statement, as well as the official plan of the United Counties of SD&G. We held a public meeting for this amendment on February 9th. We received no written or verbal comments at the public meeting or before or after the meeting. The application was circulated to the Raisin Region Conservation Authority. Of course, they supported the amendment because the applicant had previously worked with the RCA to obtain a cut and fill permit to raise the grade of the property to remove it from the floodplain, which is why the zoning amendment was required. One thing I'll point out is we're required to make decisions within 90 days, and today would be day 74. One of the reasons for the delay in comparison to our normal process is because I went on vacation, so my apologies that it wasn't brought before council sooner, but we're still within the prescribed timeline, and staff is recommending that the application be approved.
Just for the record, that still meets and exceeds the expectations. So are there any questions of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Welcome back, Deputy Mayor. Zoning bylaw amendment, zoning bylaw 226, Lalonde, moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 2026-41 be received and the bylaws 2026-21, 2026-22, and 2026-23, being bylaws to amend the comprehensive zoning bylaw 3809 to rezone the property legally described as part of Lot 31, Concession 8, being Part 1 on Reference Plan 14R377 in the geographic township of Lancaster, now the township of South Glengarry, County of Glengarry, located at 20706, 20710, 20714, Concession 9, from Agriculture AG to Rural Exception 23, RU 23, Rural Exception 24, RU 24, and Rural Exception 25, RU 25. In order to recognize three existing dwellings on the proposed separate lots, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 23rd day of March 2026. Mrs. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report might look a little different than what you're normally used to seeing because we typically don't have 3 amending bylaws accompanying one staff report. But basically, we did this it made more sense to do it this way because of what was being proposed and what was approved by Planning Act consent. This is a parcel of property that is currently developed. It's located on County Road 25, and it contains 3 existing single detached dwellings on one parcel of property. Instead of making the individual do 3 separate zoning amendment applications, because really it's all the same process, same work, we did one application, preparing a notice identifying that there are proposed 3 exception zones to accommodate each of the proposed 2 severed lots and the retained lot to identify basically the deficiencies within the bylaw, and I'll speak to that specifically. So the purpose of the amendment for Rural exception 23 was to reduce the minimum lot area from 0.4 hectares to 0.39 hectares, reduce the minimum lot frontage from 40 meters to 34 meters, and reduce the minimum interior side yard setback from 5 meters to 1.3 meters. For rural exception 24 is to reduce the minimum lot area from 0.4 hectares to 0.33 hectares, reduce the minimum lot frontage from 40 meters to 26.8 meters, and reduce the minimum interior side yard setback from 5 meters to 3.1 meters. And lastly, for the retained lands known as rule exception 25, or proposed as rule exception 25, is to reduce the minimum lot area from 0.4 hectares to 0.39 hectares, and reduce the minimum lot frontage from 40 meters to 32 meters. Some could ask, why would we support something like this when it doesn't meet the minimum requirements? It makes sense to support something like this because having 3 dwellings on one parcel of property can result in sometimes title issues, tenant issues, and having 3 existing dwellings have their own clear title and being able to be sold is really better for everyone, both the buyers, the occupants, as well as the current owner. As you can see in the staff report, this does conform to the provincial planning statement and the official plan. And this meeting, or the public meeting for this amendment, was held on February 9th. And we had no members of the public speak in opposition or for it. We did circulate to the United Counties of SDNG because this does front on County Road 25, and they had no concerns. All of the entrances are existing. And we'll be making a decision on day 68 out of the 90 days. So again, staff are recommending this application to be approved as well, as it makes good land use planning sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Moving to the consent agenda, I believe Councillor Jaworski, you wanted to pull 11B, Community Living, Glengarry and Proclamation request?
Yes, I did.
Okay, please proceed.
So thank you. Through you, Mayor McDonald. I'll be honest, my memory is failing me on whether or not we've done this before or not. But, considering that we have a community living group home in South Glengarry, this is an organization that does excellent work for a group of our residents who, need that, sort of special support. I definitely wanted to bring their request forward and see if there was support from the rest of council to comply with some of their request or partial of it.
Okay, and I believe on page 161 is the proclamation they're looking for at the very least. Obviously, I'm going to support this one as my Friday nights are gifted. I have a wonderful Fred comes over. We have date night with a pizza. So, other councils would like that proclamation to come forward. Okay, so we'll bring this forward for next meeting, and I think they have their proclamation there on 161, so we can just copy that. Is there further steps you wish to take, Councillor, or was it more of that?
What was that? Thank you.
Okay, great. I cheekily look at 11A. I know I didn't bring it forward, but if you are running for election, do not wear a South Glengarry logo on your shirt and print 5,000 brochures in the future. That's for other people to take heed of advice. So that's consent agenda, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Councillor Bougee. Be it resolved that council accepts the items listed on the consent agenda. All those in favor? Carried. So then committee updates. I am going to jump ahead this one. We don't have a mayor's update, but I did have somebody reach out to me, and it was following up on I'll just put this under county business. The Stonehouse Vineyard, Mr. McMillan, Craig McMillan, we had supported them, I believe it was 2023. He got back to me saying there was a small win there, combined with some small losses. But the LCBO did exempt wines from non-VQA Ontario wines from what he would describe as punishing taxes on sales to licensee, specifically restaurants. So now our local vineyards who are non-VQA can sell to, through, I should say, restaurants. Unfortunately, that does not correspond to the LCBO groceries or convenience stores, where VQA continues to get a 50% rebate. Additionally, this was gifted to the non-VQA I guess maybe a tit for tat, was VQA rebates on site sales are now available to them and not to non-VQA. So they're your smaller vendors. So it's less expensive for VQA members to sell on their own property now. So that's a small loss for them. But the big thing is they asked to be in the restaurants. We supported them, and that happened. So encourage your local restaurants to sell local wine if they can. Moving to the county council, Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, I'd be happy to start it, and you can add anything. I just jotted down some of the things that were covered at county council meeting was last week, I believe. Alto high-speed rail was discussed, and we approved staff making some comments and submitting them as the proposed corridor, part of it goes through the township of North Glengarry, which would be under the county's jurisdiction. Some of the concerns were just the fact that they need to work more with the municipality, so we're more aware of what the plans are. Maintain existing rail services. There's quite a concern that if this high-speed rail goes in, the customer numbers will drop for VIA, and we would, because we're not really served by any kind of station, so if we hate to see lose our VIA from Cornwall to Toronto or Montreal. And there's lots of concerns about farmland and cutting up farmland and crossings and this sort of things, and whether we get enough crossings or roads that end up dead-ended and this sort of stuff. So counties will be submitting some comments. The Cass Bridge rehabilitation, the tender came back at $3.577 million. It's a 2-year project, which is something of note. We don't very often do this, where they will work for this summer, then the road will be fully open for the winter, and then be partial one lane closed again for next summer. So it'll be 2 years to complete that. That's Cass Bridges on Highway 31, just south of Winchester. Microsurfacing tender came in at $381,000. We considered an additional $113,000 for a change order, but decided to wait and see what the AC index is. That's the extra that we pay on our asphalt, depending on, a lot of it's tied to the price of oil, so everybody's kind of up in the air as far as how much that additional cost will be. We have, I think, $440,000, I think, set aside for that, but we're just not sure if that's going to be enough to cover it, depending on what the price of oil does. The paving budget, so far we're $452,000 under what we had budgeted. So there was talk, the mayor and I were kind of leaning towards maybe finishing the one that was pulled last year was County Road 2 from Curry Hill to the Quebec border. We've decided to kind of wait on that as well, just to see where the numbers come in, and it could be added later in the season. So we're holding on that as well. Winter maintenance was $1.75 million over budget for 2025. A little bit of a concern. We'll deal with it through various reserves, but that's the way winters go. You never know if they're going to be high or low, but anyway. And there was a petition submitted for the roadside tree planting. So there has been a committee of a whole meeting, and we've agreed to do another committee of a whole meeting to hear from more people concerned with tree planting along the county roads. I can't remember the date, Mr. Mayor. Do you remember the date on that? I might be able to.
April 7th, I believe.
That sounds
at
about
7
right,
p.m.
April 7th. Yeah. That's all I've got. Thank you.
And if I may just jump on board that Alto thing, I know it's not our area, but the the environmental side of me sees it going through the Rose Forest potentially, and I don't know if is it St. Albert Bog, or there's a bog there that would go straight through. So not only would it dissect human corridors and farming corridors, it would also potentially go through some pretty critical things when you counter or encourage people to the natural heritage study that was done several years ago at the counties. County business tangentially is the library board, just to keep everybody up to date. We had a meeting last Thursday, and it was somewhat last minute. And I just want to highlight what the alternatives were. So this is for the Williamstown Library. The board did decide to go with alternative 1, which was to remove the existing floor and install carpeting at an expense. But the other alternatives were remain closed until a suitable alternative location can be found, and look at the library's lease agreement. Alternative 3 was the consideration of the matter to be deferred, and that the staff be directed to report back with further options and analysis. So there was talk of not temporarily having a library in Williamstown. I think we're addressing that as quickly as possible. I can't speak for the board when I say this. I'll speak for myself, just because it's public, it's in the public record, would be I do like it at that location. And if it's not there, any location in Williamstown is better than not in Williamstown. So I'll continue to advocate for that here, because we do only have one library and one express depot in Glen Walter. And sometimes you have to remind people that we're 22.5% of taxation, and we have the least amount of libraries, or tied for the least. But I digress. Are there any further council updates or committee updates? Deputy Mayor Lang?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, not an actual update, but maybe just a heads up that the Ag Committee is going to have a meeting Thursday at 1:30 at the Williamstown Fire Hall. And Councillor Dworsky, maybe I'll just do this so you don't have to do it, but Environment Committee is meeting tomorrow at 5 o'clock, I believe.
And if I may, I'm going to put our clerk on the spot. I understand you had two meetings for, if anybody were interested in election information. Were they attended or well attended? I know oftentimes we go out and we go in the community. I think you did Glen Walter and, was it Martintown? Martintown? How was the uptake?
Yes, so we did hold 2 candidate information sessions last week, one in Glen Walter, one in Martintown. Unfortunately, we did not have any folks come in and take us up on our offer for some additional information, but for anyone who's watching, we do have additional sessions coming up next week on Monday, the 30th in this hall, in Tartan Hall, and on the 31st in Green Valley. So if you are interested in running in the upcoming municipal election, come out and ask your questions. You can pick up a nomination package, and the nomination period opens on May 1st, so that's coming up.
Thank you for that update. I'm sorry that nobody attended, but I am very glad that you did this, because we're trying to get outreach out there, and it is our goal to make it more accessible, and I think we've done that there. We will move then to support resolution, I believe. This one was to amend Land Transfer Tax Act, put forward by Deputy Mayor Lang. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Bougie. I'll read the motion, then if you wish to add more, please do. Moved by Deputy Mayor Lang, seconded by Councillor Bougie. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby endorses the resolution passed by the Township of South Stormont attached hereto, and formally requests that the Province of Ontario considers amending the Land Transfer Tax Act to enhance housing affordability and access to homeownership for first-time buyers in urban, suburban, and rural communities. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Premier of Ontario, the Minister of Finance, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MPP Nolan Quinn, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and the Township of South Stormont. Deputy Mayor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I won't speak to it too much. We talked about it last meeting, but I think it's a great idea. I'm glad the province is doing it. We're just thinking that maybe they need to, the housing values have gone up so much, maybe it's time to reassess the amount and put it more in line with the housing values of today.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Carried. Moving to the confirming bylaw, moved by Councillor Jaworski, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lang. Be it resolved that bylaw 2026-24, being a bylaw to adopt, confirm, and ratify matters dealt with by resolution, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 23rd day of March, 2026. All those in favor? Carried. And then adjournment. There's no major things need to be announced. Okay. Moved by Councillor Bougie, seconded by Councillor Jaworski. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry adjourn to the call of the Chair at 8:36 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. Have a good evening, everyone.